What's going on, everybody? Gentleman94 here. Welcome back to build day 7 here on the F-105 Thunderchief. And today we're going to be working on masking the canopy. And this is all we're going to do today. We're just going to mask the canopy because I realized I don't have the paint necessary and required to go ahead and start painting this bad boy. So I'm going to go ahead and just do what we can do to prep for paint. And the last thing we really have to do is to mask off the canopies so we can get these glued down. We'll have to do a little bit of work on the front section there, but for the most part, this is the last major thing we have to do before we can start putting paint down. So I'm going to walk you through my version of it, and then I will talk a little bit about a couple other styles of masking. Now, this is my version. What I'm using is Tamiya masking tape. I'm using a straight edge, and I'm just slicing horizontal stripes through the tape. And then I'm going to go ahead and take that and I'm going to cut vertical slots down different sections of the tape, creating a few different areas of different sized masking strips. And then I'm going to take my canopy and my hobby knife and I'm going to peel up one of the very thin, fine strips, place it on the canopy, fidget it around until I get it right where I need it to be. Burnish it down all around the exterior where the frame meets the clear part. It's going to have an outline of Tamiya and a center section of the blue tape you see here on my desk as well. The blue tape, by the way, is just your basic old 3M blue painter's tape. It's nothing fancy. As you can see here, we're just going to take one strip of tape. This is probably a little too thick. We might want to change this out, but you get the general idea that we're just going to take it and we're going to place it around the edge of the clear section where the clear meets the frame. And then we're just going to position it with our knife and we're just going to push it around, and once it's set where it needs to go, burnish it down a little bit. A word to the wise, if you haven't masked canopies like this before, this is a pain in the rear. Canopies are probably one of the worst sections of building a model you can ever imagine because it's so time consuming and it's so boring and monotonous. You know, the bigger the canopy that you have, the more time you're going to spend masking this thing. And depending also on the time frame, such as say if you're building a World War II aircraft like a F-105D, that has a huge greenhouse looking canopy. It's going to take you forever to mask that canopy off. The Heinkel HE-111 has a big glass glazed nose. That also would take a while to go ahead and mask. You have to be very patient with yourself, and you might want to take it in sections. Once you do put the tape down, of course, remember to burnish it. I'm using a Q-tip here. I'm just going to go ahead and rub the tape to make sure that it is nice and solid right up against that frame, because I don't want any paint sneaking down between the frame and the glass and getting in between the tape and the clear section. Once you have the section all the way around, you're going to then start covering up the interior areas. And as you can see here, I've got the front windscreen done. And this is not too bad. I've left a few parts that I need to come back through and mask off. But we're going to go ahead and do the blue tape at this point. Just take one strip of blue tape, like I did with the Tamiya tape. We're going to stick it down to my cutting board, and we're just going to slice sections off. And then we're just going to start putting sections down. It's a good idea to also use your canopy and kind of measure, judge how much you need of the blue tape, and take it nice and slow and easy. So like I said, there are two other techniques that you can use to go ahead and mask canopies. One of which is using liquid mask, and the other which is using pre-cut, pre-made masking strips. Now I'll talk a little bit about the liquid masking. I have actually never tried to use liquid mask. I have a little bottle of it. I've never actually used it. All you do is just paint liquid mask onto the glass area, keeping the frames exposed. Once it's all dry, you airbrush it, and then you just peel off the liquid mask. I know a lot of model builders who have tried it and swear by it. Maybe get yourself an old canopy, get yourself some liquid mask, give it a try. The other technique is probably the easiest technique of them all, and that is to go out and just buy pre-cut masks. They come in a very clear, sometimes opaque film that are already pre-cut, designed for every section of clear on your canopy. You just line them up front to front and just transfer section by section over from the sticker sheet onto the canopy. That is probably the easiest and fastest way to go ahead and mask off all the clear parts. I've used that a few times, and yeah, it works great. Sometimes they're a little expensive. I think I've seen a few of them like $7, $8, depending on the size of the model. Could get even more than that. Some kits will come already stocked with them, such as the FJ Fury that I have, done by a company called Grand Phoenix. And it was one of the early kits before we had the Hobby Boss FJ4s. It came with masks, and they worked great. I had no problem with those. Stuck them on, made sure to burnish down the edges, make sure they were all nicely adhered. prepped my paint, shot it, and it was done. Let the paint dry, pull off the mask, you're good to go. So it really was that fast. I didn't have to cut strips of tape. I didn't have to do any other work like that. It was very simple. Problem, of course, is, like I've said before, it can be expensive. For a model like this, I mean, would I want to spend an extra $5, $7 to buy a little sheet with a few pieces of ready-made mask? No, I don't. Maybe you guys do, and that's fine. If you guys have the cash and you guys want to do it, go ahead. I highly recommend it. But for me, I thought, well, there's no real need to go out and spend more money on this kit, so I'm just going to use what I have. It's a bit more time consuming this way, but it works well. For the same price as you can buy a set of pre-cut masks, you can also buy a roll of tape, possibly 2 rolls of tape. Sure, it takes longer, but it works pretty darn good. So what I'm going to do here on the front windscreen is I'm going to take the blue tape and I'm going to cut little angles in it. And I'm going to use that to go ahead and cover up any of the areas that were left uncovered when I ran around with the Tamiya tape and I hit all the edges and all the frames. I want to go ahead and make sure that this is going to cover up any areas that may not have had 100% coverage. It's a good idea too to go ahead and overlap your pieces of tape. So if I lay one piece of tape down, I want to go ahead and overlap the second tape on top of the first. Just make sure that everything is nice and covered. Hold it up to a light and look through it there at the light through the canopy and see if you see any areas that are bright. So that's pretty much it. We are ready to go ahead and paint these suckers. So next time we'll come back, we'll go ahead and paint up the front of the cockpit section, and then we'll glue these bad boys down, and we're going to go ahead and cover them up with paint. I know it wasn't a very long episode today, but like I said, we need to get this done before we can go ahead and paint. And I need to figure out what paint I want to get. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you back here soon.